Hello BookTube. Today on my 2023 library tour, I will be looking at some of the boxes of Exile. The boxes of Exile are a series of boxes in which I have stored a number of my science fiction and fantasy books that I'm not entirely sure I want to keep, particularly as my library space shrinks with the more books I get. So I have a number of boxes. This first batch of boxes are three that are next to the end of my history wall. So let's get going. So first I have a few PAL boxes for when I eventually sell some books with them. So just put these over here for the moment and get to box number one. See here, who all is in here? Okay. And I'm going to try to limit these videos to about 25 to 30 minutes or less. So anyway, so the first book in this box here is Signal to Noise by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This is her first novel. It's a contemporary fantasy in which characters have a musical-based magical powers. I had a go at it a few years ago. It didn't quite work out, and I wanted to do about redemption, which is why I have this copy. I should also have, one of Silvia Moreno Garcia's more recent works, Gods of Jade and Shadow. This is a historical fantasy set in early 20th century Mexico, in which a downtrodden young woman is manipulated by a god to take him on a journey to regain his powers. Meanwhile, her family tried to stop her because their success is rooted in the support of a rival god. I picked this up a few years ago and bailed on it. I really didn't like it. Next is Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. This is a science fantasy in which there's a galactic empire that is ruled by necromancers. And it's about a young woman, Gideon, who's initially an indentured servant, and she tries to flee, but is brought back and forced by her overlord to help her in some bizarre game of power, and they gradually fall in love, even though I really did not like what I read of this book. It was not very good. This is a Runebreaker by Alex R. Kaler. This is the second book in the Runebinder series. I think it's a trilogy. Never got around to it because, although I do like the cover, the first book in the series, Runebinder, also by Alex R. Kaler, wasn't very good. They're both young adult fantasies. They're post-apocalyptic. I didn't like either one. I didn't like it. This is Fate of the Fallen by Kel Cade. This is an epic fantasy in which the chosen one dies at the beginning and it's up to his best friend to finish the job. I picked it up in 2019. I remember it came out on my birthday in 2019, and I got to it in December of 2019, and is one of the books that caused this whole mess I'm in with science fiction and fantasy. Enough said about that, the better. Next is The Complete Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis, which I've never gotten to. The Unspoken Name by A.K. Larkwood. This is the first volume in, at least right now, it's a duology, in which an ogre or an orc, I don't quite remember, joins up with a wizard and they go on a cross-dimensional escapades. I didn't particularly like it. Still Crow Saga by Paul Kruger. This is an epic fantasy about a young woman who's escorting a defeated prince back home while princess from another kingdom is trying to capture that prince for her father. All the while, a wizard figure is looking for revenge for the first protagonist. I read it in 2020, bailed on it, gave it a bail redemption, and late 2020 was successful, but I don't think I really would want to keep it. I think ultimately I don't think I will reread it. This is Tomorrow's Kid by Nancy Kress. I bailed on it. I think it's a first contact novel, and the main character is a professor who is sort of conscripted to open communication with the aliens. I didn't care for it. I ended up bailing on it fairly quickly. The first chapter really had all of my berserk buttons. This is The Standing Dead by Ricardo Pinto, book 2 in the Stone Dance of the Chameleon series. It's a fantasy series without magic. It's very grimdark, if I remember, and I've never gotten to it because I had read bits of the first book, didn't like it, but wanted to give that first book a bail redemption and ended up collecting the entire series. I am insane. And the last book in this box is Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell. This is a space opera gay romance in which relative, a grandson of an emperor, is forced to marry a noble from a neighboring planet and all sorts of shenanigans going on. I didn't particularly care for it. I thought the writing was poor, although the cover is quite nice. Now, let me put these books up, and then I'll go on to the next box. So I don't think many of the books in this box will be sticking around. Even if I do like some of the covers. Okay. That was box 1. Box 2. Let's see what's in here. Okay, so this box has the Loom Saga books that I have. This is The Alchemist of Loom by Elise Kova. It's a YA fantasy that I never read, and I've had it for years now. This is the second book in the series, The Dragons of Nova. Also never got to. Probably one of the worst books I've ever read. Dryland's End by Felice Picano. This is a space opera about a sort of an interstellar matriarchy that is being attacked via a sterility plague, and involves um, a journey to a distant planet where there might be a cure. Although that cure is quite problematic. What Felice Picana was thinking, I have no idea. Uh, Next is Black Leviathan by Bernd Purples, um, translated by Lucy Van Cleef. This is a German fantasy that it's basically Moby Dick with dragons on airships. Did not like it at all. This is The Gates of Stone by Angus MacCallum. I don't know if there are any sequels to this. It's basically it's a mess. It's been a while since I've read this. I don't actually quite remember much about it, which is probably not an argument for keeping it. I also have the 3 books in the what is the series called? I don't know what the series' title is, but it's a trilogy by K. Arsenault Rivera that starts with The Tiger's Daughter. It's about 2 young women who fall in love, one of whom becomes an empress, the other leader of her people, and they go on adventures at certain points. I have had several goes at The Tiger's Daughter, and I don't like it. There's so much about the world building annoys me. So, but that did not stop me from picking up the other 2 books in the series, The Phoenix Empress and The Warrior Moon. So again, this box is likely at some point going to be sent on its way. Oh, wait a minute. Downstairs. And finally, the last box over here. This time I'm just going to put it over here. Okay, let's see what all I have in this box. Okay, a lot of mass markets. First up is the Maleficent 7 by Cameron Johnston. This is a fantasy that came out about 2 years ago. It's about a Dark Lord who, on the eve of her victory, disappeared. And years later, she reassembles most of her underlings to defend a small village where she has since taken up residence. Despite having liked the 2 previous books by Cameron Johnson, I did not get on with that one. Although I might come back to it at some point. I don't know. Next is Riot Baby by Tochi Onyebuchi. This is a near future science fiction story about 2 siblings, one of whom develops superpowers, the other one who is imprisoned, and it's a bit of a mess. This is a David Mogo God Hunter by Suyi Davies Okungboa. This is a really good fantasy set in Nigeria, in which the gods of the Yoruba have come to Earth, and it's actually quite good. Um, Next are some novels by Stephen King. This is Christine, one of his horror novels. I also have The Stand, his big epic fantasy novel set in a post-apocalyptic America. Velocity Weapon by Megan E. O'Keefe. This is a space opera that I bailed on. Bone Shaker by Sherry Priest. This is a steampunk and an alternate post-Civil War America in which there are zombies. The Complete Historic Materials by Philip Pullman, which I picked up largely, much like with Narnia, because there was a point where when I saw my collection as being mostly science fiction and fantasy, that I wanted certain classics of science fiction and fantasy, including those that are more or less middle grade or young adult, which is why I have this and have never read it. The next two books are the two other books by Cameron Johnson I have that I both like. The Traitor God, which is the first book in the duology, which I thought was really good. It's about a wizard who returns to his home after the death of his friend, and he causes all sorts of trouble. And God of Broken Things, which is the sequel, which I didn't like as well as The Traitor God, but it's fairly good. Next is An Accident of Stars by Foz Meadows. This is a portal fantasy that I did not get on with when I did try a chapter tag. The Hour of Night by Helen Lowe, which I think I also did not get on with after I tried chapter tag. Two books by Fritz Leiber that are doubles. Swords Against Death and Swords in the Mist. I have a bind up omnibus edition of several of those, so I don't really need the doubles. In the Company of Ogres by Ailey Martinez, which I did a try chapter of and really hated. More Stephen King. The Drawing of the Three, the second book in the Dark Tower series. There was a point where I really wanted to read The Dark Tower, but I never got around to it past Gunslinger. This is book 4, Wizard and Glass. And book 3, The Wastelands. I think that's about it except for the Gunslinger, which is not in this box. I also have The Many-Colored Land by Julian May, which is a science fiction novel that Steve Donahue is especially fond of. His recommendations are largely why I picked it up, but I have never gotten around to it. I want to say I probably picked it up from Golden since it doesn't have any things on it. This is, or maybe the French Library book sale. One of the two. Anyway, this is The Chosen by Ricardo Pinto. This is the first book in the Stone Dance of the Chameleon, which I had to go at years and years ago. It was at one point one of the few works of science fiction and fantasy to feature gay characters or gay protagonists, and I really didn't get on with it. This is The Mirror Prince by Violette Milan. This is a portal fantasy that I think I had a look at during a try chapter tag and did not get on with. The third book in the Stone Dance of the Chameleon series, trilogy, The Third God, also by Ricardo Pinto. books in this box. The first is Blackwood Farm by Anne Rice. There's a point where I wanted to read Anne Rice, and that kind of has passed. And The Shattered World by Michael Reeves. That is part one of my the books of exile, or boxes of exile. I have a few more out in the hall, so I need to figure out how exactly I want to film those videos. Whether I want to just do them as a here. Yeah. Since those boxes are in the hall, I don't know how I'm going to do them. I might do them like over during the night or something. Bring them in here and film. But anyway, I'll figure it out and do that. Okay. So, anyway, BookTube. I'll be back later this evening with another video. So until then, thank you, have a great afternoon, and stay safe.